that would apply to what happened in Parsboro a couple of weekends ago. Our director, under the Act, our director has the right to, in the interest of public safety, to act very quickly and very swiftly, which is what we did in Parsboro with that building that was partially collapsed down there, like I say, a couple of weeks ago. And then we're starting to deal with these unsightly premises. And again, there's in a couple of ones yesterday, there was a public safety factor involved too. And so there is some urgency to get them looked after.
Now, when you say emergency, demolishing them, that's the height of emergency, isn't it?
Yes, we try not to get to that point, but we have to react both to citizen complaints that come in and from the public and staff member, anyone a member of council now, which was never the case before, can now make a complaint or about a dangerous or unsightly premise on their own now. So you know what? We're very aware of what's going on around the country and trying to stay very proactive on that front.
Now, let's just go back to the point you made about the building in Parsboro. That one ended up being a really emergency demolition because you had planned a meeting of council to talk about it, but before you could even get to the meeting, it was felt that the building began to shake, and there was a real concern it was going to come down on its own, and that, of course, may have impacted citizens. Who knows? You blocked the streets, and you went to work to take it down and then talk about it after the fact. That was right on Main Street in Parsboro. That must have been high profile.
Yes, lots of activity, lots of eyes on that project as it was going on, and lots of commentary from locals right through to the CBC about what happened and why it happened, how it happened, and it was just coincidental that we had it on our list to discuss the following week, and had been looking at that building for a while, and when it suddenly shifted, that was the end. That was the time we had to make a move and do it very quickly. And I can say that our director, Alan Cole, and all of his staff in that department, worked long hours through that weekend to make sure that the public was A, kept informed, and B, kept safe. And hats off to them for a great job.
Now, the ones you talked about yesterday, 4 in all, they got to the point of disrepair that most people believed. In fact, your staff felt were to the point where they really have to come down. There's no saving them anymore. And when buildings get like that, they have a tendency to become problems for other people as well. And I think in terms of the homeless who seek shelter, and I think in terms of the one at 2 South Street in Spring Hill was also of a concern by the RCMP. And that one you've agreed needs to come down. What was the police concern?
They had a number of concerns there. There was they had according to the information in the council package, they had been called to that site on at least 6 occasions. And on at least a couple of those, they had to remove individuals from the premises, and they were also concerned that there may be was a lot of illegal drug activity going on there, and all of those factors combined get us to where we were yesterday.
Do I understand correctly that the police at one point actually suggested that nobody should go there? I mean, from the public, from officialdom and so on. Would they think the need to perhaps be there with you when you come time to actually go in to demolish it?
I think they'll be there for that one, because they're not sure. They have to check the buildings. We're obviously very careful. You're not going to just drive up to a building and stick an excavator into the roof without making sure that there are no, occupants of any sort inside. So if there was any cause for concern, or if there were people inside at the time that the demolition was scheduled to start, then obviously the RCMP would be brought to the scene and to deal with that too, because we want to be very careful that way.
Going down the list now, then 46 Church Street in Spring Hill is another one that you felt needed to be torn down. The owner actually showed up at council yesterday. He seemed to be a little bit miffed about not fully understanding the rules and regulations, but he stood there and said that he would like to have 60 days to handle the demolition himself. The rationale might be that, if you tear it down, you're going to send the bill to the owner, and maybe your costs might be higher than he can get it done for. So perhaps that's his thinking. I don't know for sure. But council did agree that you would give him the 60 days to tear it down. What about the fact that he suggested that somebody had gone into his property and boarded it up without his permission? I think he used the word illegally at one point.
Yeah, well, that he did make that comment yesterday, and then when we clarified it with Director Cole, our staff in these situations have the right to enter a property and to make determinations and to secure them if necessary in the public interest. Because if you leave something wide open, people get in there, they set a fire, they do whatever. All kinds of things could take place that would not be of a good nature. So you know what? Under the Act, Alan Cole and his staff do have the right to, for lack of a better word, to trespass and to do their jobs by trespassing, so to speak. I mean, I use the word trespass only because it sort of fits what I'm trying to talk about. But that is the Act, and we certainly were acting well within our authority on those on that one.
Indeed, indeed. Now, two more to talk about: 3276 Highway 2, another property in Parsboro, and 11890 Highway 2 in Leamington. These are properties that, by description and by photo, suggest that they are beyond the point of being fixed, to be sure. But what's interesting is that fire seems to be a part of the history of these buildings. I think 3 out of the 4 buildings had suffered a fire that clearly from the photos was not fixed up properly. And in some cases, there were people in those buildings with wood-burning stoves of some kind or another, in one case without any connection to a chimney. So, people in the buildings with fires in that way, this is of extreme concern, I would think. And it leads to the idea of tearing them down, one in Parsboro, one in Leamington. Can you comment on those two?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's you wrapped that up very well there, Bill. Those buildings did have suffer some damage, a lot of damage, to the point where they're unfixable. And the other sidebar to all of that is that some of this plays into the nature of the homelessness situation in the county of Cumberland these days, there's the need for more work, and there certainly is lots of it going on to address those homelessness issues around the county. There's another announcement, I believe, coming up this afternoon in Spring Hill from the government about a bunch of low-income housing that has recently been constructed, and some more that is planned. I think $2.3 million in this latest round of investments for that type of stuff. So, there's lots of work to be done on all fronts from that point of view.
Now, changing things, that deals with the 4 properties that are going to be demolished. There was, you might call it a little bit of housekeeping went on yesterday as well, and that is where you established the tax rates for the 2 villages that exist within Cumberland County, River Hibbert and, of course, Pugwash Village. These 2 communities set their own tax rates, if you will, and normally that's handled by the county. And of course, back in March 31st, when you established the tax rate for the county, you did everything but deal with the village tax rates. How come?
Well, we have to wait. The village commissions themselves have to have their AGMs, and they have to do their bookkeeping. They have their audits and all of that going on, and then when they're ready, they notify us that they've had their AGM and advertised their meeting, done whatever they need to do, and they've looked at their financial situation and figured out what their needs are and set the rate, and then they give us all of that information and ask us to approve it and to administer collection of the monies for them, and then we will in turn send the monies along to those 2 village commissions.
So we have a situation where River Herbert then is going to add 10 cents per $100 of assessment. That's for residential and commercial for all properties. Pugwash, on the other hand, has a 37-cent per $100 of assessment for residential properties and 44 cents per hundred for commercial properties. And as you say, these will be added to the county tax bill. So in effect, you were anxious to get your budget passed early. I know because you wanted to get some tenders out early and take advantage of being among the first to call for tenders. But they've, in fact, delayed you in getting your tax bills out. Maybe we should be grateful to them, we taxpayers, that you haven't sent us a bill yet.
Yeah, well, we're ready to go, and that's sort of the final piece of that puzzle, to get the tax bills prepared and get them out the door very soon. So much earlier than we have in the last 2 or 3 years, I'm sure. So, it's all about due process, and I think even the village commissions are ahead of schedule from what they have been the last couple of years. So we're now into getting ready to turn our attention to our district grants and our county grant program. And the next few days will be a lot of work on those particular items to see where we can go to support all the organizations throughout the county. So.
Now, I can well understand why the county would administer the taxes for the villages, because it would be a huge job, a huge task for them, and probably add to the cost of administration. But you obviously do it. You add their taxes to your taxes, you collect the whole thing, and then you pass on to them what's theirs. And is it as simple as that? Did they ask you to do that, or did you suggest that to them?
You know what, Bill, I'm not sure of the history of that and how it all started. It's been going on for as long as I can remember, exactly the way it is now. And I think that it was probably born out of an ease of looking after things. We're set up to do it. To try and do it any other way would be very cumbersome for village commissions, who are made up mostly all completely of volunteers in the community and all of that. I think it's just a much smoother process if we do it.
Just 1 minute left. Any comment on the federal election yesterday?
Well, it was very interesting, and the fun part about it this morning was that everybody involved in the federal election from one end of the country to the other will now perhaps have to be much more accountable to the people than they perhaps would have been under other circumstances, which would be a big majority of one party or the other. I think now it behooves them to work together for the common good of the people. Then, if that happens, we'll all be better off. If it doesn't, well, there's always a format to have another election at some future point before the 4 years is up, and let the people decide one more time. But having said all of that, I would also like to say congratulations and thank you to everybody, all of the candidates, both the winners and losers yesterday. It's not easy to stick your hand up and partake in that process. You take a lot of time away from family. You take a lot of questioning, sometimes a lot of abuse for your positions and thoughts, and it's never an easy task, for sure.